I retweeted it. Jesus.
Here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sentinel Sports Extra. I'm Tim Shire, founder of the Lake County Sentinel, 27 years, Cavs beat writer, former Cleveland Rockers beat writer for 7 years. And joining me are Joey Schnieder, high school beat writer for the Sentinel, and Tommy, high school social media expert for the Sentinel.
Specialist.
Tommy and Joey are joining me in this celebratory show that the Cleveland Cavaliers have applied for a WNBA franchise. It's been 21 years since the Cleveland Rockers folded, and hopefully now they will return. Hopefully they will be called the Rockers if the Cavs are granted a franchise. The original Rockers were 7 years in existence from 1997 to 2003. They were a charter franchise in the WNBA. Joey, Tommy, both of you have daughters.
Yep.
Tommy, your daughter PJ is just turned 3 the other day. My granddaughter.
She did.
So if this franchise were to be awarded to Cleveland, she would be 6 in the summer of 2028. And Joey, how old are your daughters?
My oldest is 11, and I told her about it this morning when me and you talked about it, and she like flipped because she plays basketball. She's great at basketball. She loves playing. There's already.
How old's your other daughter?
My other daughter she just turned 8, and
okay.
she also likes basketball, so she doesn't know yet. But my oldest is really the sports.
So they'll be like 14 and 11.
14 and 11. But my oldest like flipped her lid when I told her. She's like, "Oh, we gotta go. I was like, "Yeah." I was like, well, "Don't worry, we'll be going."
I texted my sister, who was a season ticket holder with the original team, and she texted me back, "Best news ever."
Yeah, I texted her too.
It is.
Did you? Yeah. It's really amazing. I've told people over the years, I love baseball, and I love covering the Lake County minor league team for the 20 years I did. But
it was cool till the last few.
There was nothing like covering the Cleveland Rockers. It was 2 months after I founded the Sentinel. Actually, at that point, we were called the Wycliffe Tribune. And they welcomed me like with open arms. It was amazing. And the people that I met back then. And what I loved most about that league was at that point, and I know it will be different now because it's grown in popularity and other things. But what I loved about that league then was the players played because they loved the sport. They were making nothing. They were not making anything. They all had other jobs or played in other leagues. I think the lower tiered players on the team back then, if I'm correct, made $12,000 a year. I think the highest paid players on the Rockers, because, they weren't a big market franchise, I believe they made $50,000 a year. So they played because they loved the sport. It was just so fun, and the crowds were unbelievable. If anyone says that they were not a success, that's wrong. Gordon Gund didn't want to have it anymore because he thought it would bring down the value of the Cavs franchise when he went to sell the Cavs franchise after they drafted LeBron James. So, but there were games where they sold out. I mean, they didn't have both decks open. They would have the lower open. But there were some games where they would have the middle of the upper concourse open, and they would sell. I think their biggest crowd is something like 17,000.
That's pretty good.
That's
Yes.
that's the entire arena.
Well, pretty much.
No.
And well, it was like 21,000 back then. They've taken seats
yeah.
out. But
It really is a small arena.
they were actually of the teams who have
It's
applied.
about the good size.
There are 3 other teams that have applied, or 3 other cities: Kansas City, Philadelphia, and I can't remember the other one. But what it said in what I read was the largest arena is Cleveland. The largest metropolitan area, aside from Philadelphia, is Cleveland. So the Philadelphia team would not play where the 76ers play. The Kansas City arena is smaller. Patrick Mahomes, I guess, applied for a franchise. So we'll see. I mean, I think that the financial stability of the team is going to be very important, obviously. So who's got the most money? I think it's Dan Gilbert, and everything Dan Gilbert touches turns to gold. So cool. I just think it's a great, I think it's a great thing.
He should buy the Guardians and Browns.
What's that?
He should buy the Guardians and Browns.
Well, Tommy, you grew up, with me constantly talking about them.
Right, yeah.
Like you could ask your mom when we were driving today after I found out, it was almost like I was the happiest I've been in years.
Yeah.
Like I was so happy.
When you called me, I couldn't even understand you. Because you were yelling basically.
I ran from the kitchen to the living room twice. Kind of like when the Cavs won the championship. But I met the greatest people too, and interviewing those players back then, just being in on the beginning of something. I can still visualize opening night in the media room, when we were watching they were the second game to tip off. I believe it was the Sparks and the Liberty, big shock, were the opening game, and I believe it was in New York. It was in the afternoon, and they were on national TV. And then the Cavs, the Rockers, I believe they played at like 7 o'clock. It was a Saturday, and I believe it was first week in June. And it was just the excitement, knowing that you were at the beginning of something big, and it's just like so many people I met, like Tommy, I've told you many times, like Doris Burke, the great NBA analyst, in the media room. I had dinner with her a few times, and she was so nice. And Chuck Daly, the Hall of Fame coach of the Pistons, and he coached the Cavs for about 3 weeks too. But talking to him, the people that were involved in that league at the beginning, it was amazing. And what's crazy about it, which is amazing too, is there's still 2 beat writers who are covering the Cavs now, besides myself, that covered the Rockers back then. And I can't wait to see them tonight and talk to them about, wow, it might come back. It was a special time, Could you imagine like being at the beginning of like when Major League Baseball started or when the NFL began?
Well, I don't think they knew it would be like this.
I don't think they did. And you know what the thing is? We didn't know that the WNBA, it took a while. Actually, it took the NBA and the NHL
Longer
than the WNBA to become popular, and
it's not obviously all in thanks, but Caitlin Clark had a huge.
Oh yeah, and as much as you would say she didn't, Angel Reese matters too.
No, she does.
I think her
ego is just as big as Texas. So
I think honestly, you have to pay homage to the great players who Lisa Leslie and Cheryl Sweets and
she wasn't really that nice.
Well, not being nice is one thing, but being a good player is something else. You could be a
good, but there were a lot of good players. Like
there's been a lot of good players, but what I'm saying is
about there was great rockers that nobody knows because they were Cleveland Rockers. Just they got the same treatment as the Cavs.
Right, but what I'm saying, I mean, there's a lot of a lot of people who paved the way for the next generation, who then paved the way for the next generation, and then now you got like this draft class, you had Caitlin Clark, who obviously has took the WNBA to a new level. Angel Reese, who has been if not who's been equally polarizing, and even to a lesser extent, someone like Cameron Brink, who unfortunately got hurt, tore ACL. She was drafted by the Sparks, but she was having a great year before she got hurt, and she was because.
I think has happened too is the culture of our society has changed. Women's sports is more accepted now.
Oh, you still got jerks, but
you do. And there's probably 76 million of them. But I'll just say that I was one of those who I didn't like women's basketball growing up. My dad would watch it, and I'm like, oh, what is he doing? And I do remember watching Nancy Lieberman-Klein when I was a kid and stuff like that, and just thinking, well, they just don't play like the men. I'm watching this. So when the franchise was announced at All-Star Weekend in 1997, when it was in Cleveland, I thought, well, you know what? Why don't we cover it? Let me see how this is. And
they don't play like the men. They play different, but it's still
they play different. And they play you Tommy, you watched that game that I have on video from 2003. And I'll be honest, the game has come a long way.
It has.
Since then too.
It has.
But I think, things evolve. Baseball's a lot different than it was in 1925.
Different than it was in 2015.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's also you got to look at something like the NCAA tournament. It's almost like you're looking at players now in women's college basketball, almost in the same way that you're looking at men. You're looking at she's going to be good in the WNBA. Like you didn't think that a few years ago. You're like someone like Juju Watkins from USC.
Yeah.
A few years ago, 10 years ago, you're not really thinking too much about her going to the WNBA. Now you're like, she's going to be the number one pick. You look at Paige Beckers, you're like, she's going to be the number one pick next year.
If alerts were a thing on the phone in 2003 or 1997, like they are now, there's no way ESPN would have been tweeting out that Paige Beckers is probably going to be the number one pick in the next WNBA.
Oh, she 100% she's going to be a 2.
No one would know. For one, no one would know who she was.
Yeah.
Very few people would know. Maybe 10% of the population would know who she was. But
I knew who she was in high school.
Oh, I remember when you were. I think this is like her 6th year because she got injured for the next 2 years because of COVID.
I think she graduated high school the same year as me.
Okay, so yeah, but I know you were still living at home her freshman year because I remember watching a game with you, and so she. We seem to have lost Joey. I'm not sure where he went.
Sure, he had to do something real quick.
We wouldn't have known. There's no way they would have sent out an alert for. When they had the WNBA draft lottery the other day, the Tulsa Wings won, or the Dallas Wings won that.
Yes,
that's the former Detroit Shock.
That's who I use on 2K when I do a
But going back to them, to the beginning, like Tommy can tell you this. We went to the Cleveland Rockers reunion in April with the players and down in the flats, and it was just amazing to see all those people again and to talk to people like Lynette Woodard and former Rockers coaches Dan Hughes and Linda Hill McDonald. And I got my Rockers media guide from 2003, and just to see them. And I sat on the couch for a couple minutes. There was a couch, and I sat on the couch and talked with Linda Hill McDonald, the original coach, who I was pretty hard on when she was the coach. I asked a lot of difficult questions, but we sat and talked for a few minutes, and I said to her, I kind of get choked up when I talk about this. I said to her, could you have ever imagined this in 1997, that this women's basketball would be where it is now? And she shook her head and said, no. Like, but she said, it's gotten to where we hoped it would get.
Right. Yes.
And it has.
Yeah.
And so many people, like you said, Joe, you gotta pay homage to the people of the past. So many people have given their lives to this. Nancy Lieberman Klein, Cheryl Miller, who's one of the funniest people I ever met. And they just cared so much. And now it's exploded into this thing where it's accepted as a major sport now. And it's just so gratifying that the pioneers of this sport, I wish Pat Summitt was alive to see this, because she would be so happy that it's gotten to this level, because she cared about this so much. And I'm just really happy today that there's a possibility that Cleveland could get a team again, and they could be the name behind us. Who knows? I'm, for one, hoping they are. The Cavs franchise still owns the name. And as I told my wife, I have a Twitter name. I'll say it here, and I don't care. I got a Twitter name several years ago that I used it to tweet about other WNBA teams. Sometimes I tweet some things that aren't very nice on there, but or when the Cavs when the Cavs get beat, I'll tweet something on there that says, "Don't treat my brother like that."
Yeah.
But the Twitter is Rockers WNBA. I told my wife, if the Cavs want that, if they get this team, they can have it.
They got to pay you. Come on now.
Nah, they would probably say that they already own the rights to it. So I'm fine with just giving it to them, because they would be back. And I just think
Danny boy, he needs $100K.
If they get this team,
general manager.
If they get this team, girls in the Cleveland area will have these sports role models right in their own backyard. And all these girls will have something to shoot for, that play basketball.
How many first-round picks you think it's going to take to get Caitlin Clark?
I don't know.
I talked about this. I don't remember. It wasn't that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And I know, Tim, you were on it on Twitter. I just said, would a WNBA team work in Cleveland again? And it was with the exception, I think, of one or two people, it was overwhelmingly like, hell yeah, let's bring a WNBA team back to Cleveland. And I think that Cleveland, where that city and not just Cleveland, but the whole, metropolitan area. And even, all Northeast Ohio. I mean, we always rally around our teams, and even more so now than
sometimes too much,
but even more so now than
the Rockers were a winning. Well, they were 108 and 112 in their
right,
in
but
their 4 years. But the reason they were under 500 was really because of one season where they were 7-25.
Well,
the rest they were all over 500.
Right, but my point is that back then it wasn't where it is today, and I think where it is today, it's it's a major, it's a major sport. So I think that you're going to get large crowds consistently at these games. I think and that goes to your point about young girls, but not just young girls, but I think it's going to also you're going to bring you're going to bring your girls, you're going to bring boys, you're going to bring men, women, it doesn't matter. It's a sporting event where you rally around.
Basketball now, I think it's more acceptable now. Like boys that play basketball, they'll come watch. You know who used to come and watch the Rockers all the time? When he was in high school, and then while he was drafted, LeBron James. LeBron James was at almost every game during the 2003 season. And, if LeBron James can come and watch women's basketball, if you play basketball, you probably don't think there's too many people better than him. So I think what I've noticed too, even at the high school level, when I cover girls basketball now that I didn't see before, is a lot of times I'll see the boys basketball team there supporting them. And
definitely.
It's huge, and I think it's just so good. It's just, I've been such a supporter of women's sports, because I feel like it bothers me when they don't get the recognition they deserve, because they work just as hard as the men and the boys, and look at the school, everyone knows I'm Wycliffe. I love Wycliffe. Graduated from there. Last year, the girls basketball team was the one. They were good. They were really good, and they're going to be even better this year, I think.
They got, oh my gosh, what's her name? I feel bad.
Ava Gabriel.
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah, she's really good.
That girl's good.
Yeah, and she's the all-time leading scorer, and she got that halfway through her junior year. And so women's, I think it's time, and I think the thing is, Dan Gilbert and his people, they're not stupid. They're smart. And the reason I think they've got a really, really good shot at getting this is because I don't think Dan Gilbert, I said to both of you earlier when we talked, Dan Gilbert's not going to put his name out there unless he's pretty sure he's getting it.
Right.
So
unless he's pretty sure that he's going to make it extremely successful.
Well, I think also getting it. I think he's not going to get in an expansion bidding thing unless he thinks he's going to get it. I'm sure he checked into it. They wanted to see who else was involved. The only thing that worries me is that Patrick Mahomes, and he's popular. You know what I mean?
Philadelphia concerns me a lot more than Kansas City.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think. See, here's the thing. For me,
they are Philly obsessed in Philadelphia, unlike Cleveland, where they don't really support the baseball team as well. But they're obsessed with the Phillies. So I don't know if a WNBA team would work in Philadelphia.
What was your thought, Joey?
Yeah. Well, I think that if you look at a city like Portland getting a WNBA team, that kind of shows that a smaller market like Kansas City, which really isn't even that small of a market, has a chance. Has a good chance, and then you're attaching Patrick Mahomes' name to it. But I think that you also have to look at it from the business standpoint of, okay, well, Cleveland has all three major sports. They were one of the original, and how cool would it be to bring back, one of the original teams? And I think that if you're going to look at economically, I think Cleveland probably makes the most sense. And then, and one other thing I want to talk about, that just the evolution of just the game of basketball, but it doesn't matter men's or women's, has changed so much. Like you watch, a game, half hour before tip off, and they show the players coming in, and they have.
We're going to go about 5 more minutes here.
And they, and it shows, they show like what they're wearing and, stuff like that. And then they do the same thing for the WNBA. So like, I'm not looking at an NBA game for style, but I'll tell you what, my daughter watches the WNBA and she sees the style and what they're wearing. And she goes, oh, that's cool. So there's these other elements into the WNBA and into the NBA as well, fashion, what shoes are they wearing? What's sneakers.
And as I told
there's just a whole new
the other night, Joey, what you're saying is I said, they're not targeting us anymore. They're targeting your daughter, her age.
Right. But I mean, and like I said, you had the greats, you had the players that came into the league who then you had, then inspired the next generation, who then inspired the next and the next. And then we get to this point now where it's, I think that in the NBA, you have people, you're going back to Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and that was kind of, even maybe a little bit before. And it was like, okay, they inspired this person, and then that they inspired this person, and that person, that person inspired Jordan, and Jordan inspired LeBron, and LeBron's inspiring this next generation. And I think that that's what happened in the WNBA. It just was accelerated. So in the how many years has the WNBA been around? 27. So it just accelerated so much faster to the point where now
1997. Same as the Sentinel.
So 28 years. So you have, it was just an accelerated thing. And now we're at Caitlin Clark, who, and Angel Reese, and maybe that's the Jordan Bird, Jordan Magic or Magic Bird.
Your point about the fashion stuff too is that Cameron Brink is a model now too, I believe.
She may have been a model at USC. I'm not sure.
Already, but that's the thing. She does both, so that's
right.
Caitlin,
these kids make hair.
Exactly, but it's all, and you also got, like I said, like you just said, like the fashion, and then you have the shoes, the sneakers. You're going to start getting. I think you're going to get a whole lot more women with
sneakers. You know that.
Right, but I'm saying you're going to have a lot more women here getting their own signature shoe, and I think as a I think my daughter would rather wear Caitlin Clark's as opposed to, outside of Jordan's, because Jordan's loves Jordan, but like she doesn't
wear Caitlin Clark's,
right?
You know what I mean?
And I think you're going to see more WNBA players get shoe deals. I wouldn't be surprised to see Angel Reese get a shoe, or Paige Beckers, or
and they should.
Rockins,
and you listen.
Aja Wilson.
I think you are 100% right with what you said. You said maybe they're these different. This era's like this or that. It's 100%. I talked to somebody at a Cavs game about this, and this Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark thing is without a doubt brought the same publicity to the WNBA as the NBA when Magic Johnson and Larry Bird came in. It's 100% the same thing. And, people want to make it like those two hate each other. They don't. And I thought when I was growing up, I thought Larry Bird and Magic Johnson didn't like each other. It couldn't be farther from the truth. They were competitors, though. And when Larry Bird and Magic Johnson came in the NBA, the finals were shown on tape delay after the news. And that ended quickly. They were in prime time then.
Oh, yeah.
And And look, the WNBA finals were on ABC this year. When were they on network TV before this year? Oh, never.
Right.
So, actually, I think the inaugural championship, which was just one game, might have been on might have been on ABC. And then it was wherever after that. You know what I mean? So right. I really think that's happened, but we are pretty much out of time.
One more real quick thing. I love and appreciate all the great players in the WNBA. There's not a player that I look at and go, oh, I don't like her. I can't, because you look at the players and you're just like, this is great. But this class that came in with with Clark and with Reese, and you want to give credit to Aja Wilson, or I can't remember pronounce her first name, from Aja Wilson from Las Vegas, and Sabrina and Kelsey Plum, and all these great players. But I love that Angel Reese came in, knew that she was going to be vilified because of Caitlin Clark, and just said, you know what? If you want me to be the villain, I'm going to be the villain.
We're going to have to cut it short, though, because I actually have to get ready to go cover a Cavs game.
There we go.
I got to leave in less than a half hour.
New 15, new winning streak starting tonight.
Let's hope. Let's just hope when
Garland, Wade, Okoro, and LeVert out.
Let's just hope when they're all out. Oh Jesus! Yep. Let's. Did they say that already?
Yep.
Let's just say
Ty Jerome, 45-point game.
Let's just hope when the
46
they announce the expansion team that WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelhart doesn't wear her New York Liberty dress like she did at the game where she's supposed to be impartial and she's wearing a New York Liberty dress.
All I know is this. If we know when they're announcing it, me and Tommy are going to have to come over and strap you down. Because if they announce Cleveland, you're gonna your house may not. You're gonna hulk out and just run around. Yeah, there's gonna be holes in walls from excitement.
Yeah. So, but
there's holes in walls if they don't pick Cleveland.
That's true too.
We're gonna do a show. We're gonna do a show on Thursday for the high school preview. We're not sure what time yet, but
also known as tomorrow, everyone.
Oh, that is tomorrow. Oh, jeez. So for Tommy Shire and Joey Snyder, I'm Tim Shire, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.